Thank you for staying tuned. Do remember, cloth face masks are to be used as an additional layer of physical distancing. However, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control warns that a mask alone cannot protect you from COVID-19. Please always maintain 2 meters distance between yourself and others to stay safe. Now let's recap all the headline stories for the week in the nation's capital.
President Muhammadu Buhari is seeking for international cooperation to stop the spread of COVID-19. He made the call at a virtual extraordinary summit of heads of state and government of the non-aligned movement, themed United Against COVID-19 Pandemic. The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has described compliance levels with the health advisories after easing of the lockdown in Lagos, Ogun, and the Federal Capital Territory as very disappointing. The PTF chairman calls on security agencies to be more rigid with enforcement while respecting the rights of citizens. Meanwhile, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 is asking state governments to improve security and welfare at the various isolation and treatment centers across the country in order to prevent protests and cases of patients escaping from their facilities. The call for improved welfare and security of the isolation centers is against the backdrop of recent protests and cases of patients escaping from some isolation centers because of alleged poor treatment.
We urge all state governments to continue to pay attention to the welfare of people in isolation and for security agencies to provide adequate security around such facilities to prevent escape.
In the meantime, the federal government has extended the ban on all local and international flights in Nigeria by 4 weeks. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, explains that the extension becomes necessary after reviewing all the advice from aviation experts.
We have assessed the situation in the aviation industry and have come to the conclusion that given the facts available to us and based on the evidence of experts, the ban on all flights will be extended for an additional 4 weeks.
The federal government has recovered over $311 million of the alleged stolen funds by the country's former military ruler, General Sani Abacha, from the United States and Jersey. This was disclosed in a statement from the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Malami, SAN. The Supreme Court has quashed a judgment that convicted and sentenced the former governor of Abia State, Senator Ojo Okalo, to 12 years imprisonment. In a unanimous judgment by a 7-man panel, led by Justice Olabode Rhodes Viver, the Supreme Court held that the Federal High Court in Lagos, which tried and convicted Kalu, his firm Slock Nigeria Limited, and his former aide, Jones Udogu, acted without jurisdiction. Meanwhile, a former Minister of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, Mr. Kabiru TURAKI, has pleaded not guilty to a 16-count charge of unlawful and criminal misappropriation of funds leveled against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Mr. TURAKI was arraigned before a federal high court in Abuja alongside his former special assistant, Mr. Samson Okwetu, and 2 firms, Santi Essentials Limited and Pasco Investment Limited. As part of efforts to curb the spread of the coronavirus, the Chief Judge of the Federal Capital Territory, Justice Ishaq Bello, is asking judges and lawyers in the nation's capital to brace up for virtual court proceedings. Addressing journalists, Justice Bello insists that virtual court proceedings is in the interest of the justice sector, as it will prevent crowded court sessions, in addition to ensuring a speedy dispensation of judges.
We have to move along with the tide of changes. The time has come. The time has come that Nigeria has to belong to the club of nations that have embraced technology in doing so many things, not only adjudicating roles, but in all spheres of our endeavors.
The Speaker of the House of Representatives says the controversial infectious disease bill will now be put to a public hearing. The Speaker's statement is coming on the heels of the reactions that have trailed the bill when it was speedily passed through first and second reading last Tuesday. Meanwhile, the Senate is considering a national health emergency bill a week after the House of Representatives gave accelerated hearing to the controversial infectious disease bill.